From America's heartland, it's Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Celebrating junior bowling and elevating junior bowlers. Today, episode 165, the 2024 Kansas City Open March Adult Youth Doubles Tournament. 4 teams have qualified for the TV finals, but just one of them can be crowned champions in Division I today. Here are the final 4 teams. Qualifying in the 4th position is Paul Stigall and his adult partner, Brett Gamber. They'll meet the 3 seeds, Connor John and his adult partner, Tobias Myers. The winner of that opening match will challenge the 2 seeds, Thomas Futrell and his adult partner, Ken Caudell Jr. And the winner of that match will bowl for the championship against Caden Ball and his adult partner, Mark Henninger. They're our tournament leaders today. One of these 4 talented doubles teams will win the Division I title today at the 2024 KCO Adult Youth Doubles Tournament and will sign the coveted trophy pin on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Just a little ways south and east of Kansas City, Missouri, sits a little town called Belton. It's where a certain revered quarterback named Patrick Mahomes chose to build his new home, secluded in a wooded area just a few miles from where we are today at Aaron's Family Fun Center. In fact, the father of one of the young bowlers in the field at the KCO today worked on the roof at the Mahomes' new palatial residence. But today, we're not concerned with number 15 or his roof or his par 3 golf hole or his practice football field. Nope. We're here for the Division I championship round at the Kansas City Open's 2nd and final adult youth doubles tournament of the season. You've met our 4 doubles teams who will be competing for the title today. Here's the entire field and how qualifying went down in Division I. Now, as you already know, Division I is the division in which the youth bowlers compete scratch. But in the adult youth doubles events, the adults bowl with handicap equal to 90% of the difference between their entering average and 220. The players bowl either the morning or afternoon squad, 4 games all at once, and Aaron's re-oiled the lanes between the 2 squads. Just missing the top 4 was Tanner Haig and his adult partner, Brent Whitesell, one of the KCO board members who was the official observer for the Division III stepladder. Landon Stoddard and his dad Kyle finished 6th. They made the stepladder at the December Youth Adult in 2022 and appeared on Prodigy together. Skylar Holmes finished 7th with her partner, former Pro Bowler Cheryl Kessler, who is wrapping up her time coaching at Baker University. And as you scan down the list of contestants in Division I know you'll see a number of names you've seen before on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. But without further ado, let's get this party started. In Match 1, it's the team that qualified 4th, Paul Stigall and his adult partner, Brett Gamber, against the number 3 qualifiers, Connor John and his adult partner, Tobias Myers. We know a good bit about our 2 youth bowlers, Paul Stigall in the red, white, and blue shirt, and Connor John, at whom you're looking, has his back to you at the bottom of the screen in the green shirt. Connor has 7 300 games to his credit. Paul Stigall shot .822 in qualifying at a KCO last season. So we know he's pretty streaky, but we don't know much about these 2 adult bowlers. I can tell you that Brett Gamber is 20 years old. And he comes up a little light with his opening toss, leaving the 2-8. Now, Tobias Myers. And he's got to like that one for an opener. Solid strike to begin. Tobias has an 870 series to his credit, so he knows how to string them. Now Brett Gamber for a deceptively difficult spare, the 2-8. He goes straight at it and covers it easily. And now we get our first look at Connor John of Wichita, Kansas. 2 weeks ago, when we were in Olathe at the KCO March Point Tournament, he finished 9th. Comes in thin, almost had another 2-8. This time the 2 goes and he's left with just the 8. Paul Stegall snaps out the 10 pin. And that might be an omen for good things to come today. Throw a shot like that to start your match. So now Connor for his spare. And he covers the 8 pin, no problem. All right, Tobias Myers. Boy, that first ball he threw in the first frame, that was smooth. Watch how close the ball is to his left ankle. Man, he is in perfect balance at the line, too. Shreds the rack. And that's a double to start. And now Brett Gamber. Oh, brother. Through the nose and gets just 4. Leaves the 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10. It's been made once on Prodigy.
This is very rarely made. But he got it! What a shot!
Gilbert Kang in 2018. We'll see in a moment if Brett can duplicate that feat. But first, Connor John. Oh, man. Well, we've been flirting with some 2-8s. Brett left one on that left lane. This time it has company, the 2-8-10. All right, Brett, show us a trick shot. No, too heavy on the 3 pin that time. And now Connor John with a very nearly impossible split. The only way you're really going to make it is either shoot it left-handed or send the 2 into the right wall, get it to knock the 10 into the 8. He's just going to take the count. And that's probably the smart play early in the match. That number at the bottom of your screen, plus 14, with the arrow pointing left. That means the team that's on the left side of the score sheet, Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall, they have that lead. It was 14. With Paul Stegall putting that double up, it grows to 24 pins. And I will tell you that the players you'll see on our right on lanes 3 and 4, that's the Division II group, and we'll tell you how their stepladder plays out at the end of the show. But now, Tobias Myers. Man, I like his game. Wow. He's like a machine. All right, Brett Gamber looking for his first strike. And there it is. Connor John tells us his favorite PBA pros, Bill O'Neill, Packy, and Simo. Couldn't narrow it down to just one. Oh, my goodness. Boy, his ball hits hard. As slow as he throws it, it gets into a heavy, heavy roll. All right, Paul Stegall. He's got a double working. And now he's got a turkey. So he keeps pace with Tobias. And the lead is 24 for Brett and Paul. Connor covers the 9-pin. And now he's the only player left in this foursome who's still looking for his first strike. Tobias looks very unhurried, very relaxed, very in control. What's not to like about that game? Wow. Well, it's like that 9-pin is nailed down on lane 2. That'll wear on a player real quick. All right. Connor John still searching for his first strike of the match. It looked to me like he went a little bit more up the back of the ball without giving it quite as much axis rotation. It held line, but it still nearly left the 4-9. Broke it down, has just the 4. And there's the 9-pin taken out by Brett Gamber. He is a former KCO bowler. And at 20 years of age, he is the youngest adult we have in the field today. Connor takes out the 4-pin. And now Paul Stegall going for his 4th strike in a row. And he gets it. Paul and Connor, both 18 years of age. So this is their last season of eligibility as youth bowlers. Although they can join Brett Gamber next season and come back to the KCO Adult Youth Doubles tournaments as adults if they would like to. I'm sure there will be players who would be glad to have them as partners. Looking sharply at the end, and Brett goes through the nose, leaving the 3-6. Could have been worse. Oh my goodness. Well, Tobias fell a little off balance that time when he let it go, but it didn't seem to me that he was that far off to be leaving a light 4-10. Well, that's a fine how do you do. Goodness gracious. Oh, look out. Brett chops the 3 off the 6, so there's an open frame. That cuts into their lead. It's just 14 pins now. Tobias giving the 4-10 a go, but he too open. His first open of the match in the 5th frame, but that will put those pins right back in the column of Brett and Paul. Well, now, this time Paul comes in light, and what is this? The 2-6-10. This is one you don't see all that often. You shoot it like the 2-6. Hit the left side of the 2-pin, send it over into the 6, and hope the 6 gets the 10. But first, Connor John up on lane 2. And he's through the nose again. What is Paul Stegall doing here, going for the 6-10? On any spare, there is what's called a key pin. It's the pin nearest to you, the one in front. And with the 2-6-10, that's the 2-pin. You have to hit the 2-pin to make the 2-6-10. Now, unless he was going for count, and with as much lead as they had, going for count wouldn't necessarily be such a terrible strategy, but not the conventional way of playing it. Connor covers the 3-6-10. But now this match is down to just 10 pins separating the two teams. And look at this. Tobias Myers makes up for that open frame in the 5th by ripping the rack in the 6th. And now Brett Gamber, who's been kind of on again, off again so far this match. He knew he'd pulled it as soon as it came off his hand. He was begging for it to cross over and carry a Brooklyn. But at least he didn't leave a split. He gets 8, leaving just the 6-10. Pulled it. Oh boy, did he ever. Right through the heart, leaves the 4-6-7. You could tell that was left of his target as soon as it left his hand. There's a spare for Brett. That'll help his team's cause because it certainly looks like Connor is likely to open here, going for the 4-6-7. He'll take the count. Smart play. But now Brett and Paul's lead grows to 24 pins. And Paul is right back in the pocket with another strike. Take a look at this one again. Swings that thing out to about 7. And that was right where he wanted it. Oh man, he nearly had the 4-9 on that. Didn't look like it was that high. But he leaves just the 4. Should be an easy spare. All right, Tobias. Well, we've seen this spare a time or two already this game, haven't we? The 2-8. Got to be careful with this. Hit it square on the face of the 2-pin, or if you're a right-hander throwing a right to left hook, you can hit the right side of the pin in front, but you better not cross past the center of the face, or you'll send the 2-pin to the right, the ball will go left, and you'll leave the 8. Brett with a spare in the 7th, covering the 4-pin. Now Tobias will set his feet carefully for this. Goes with the big hook, takes the scenic route, and covers the 2-8. No problemo. All right, Paul. Oh, he tripped the 4. That looked like it might be a little too high, but he gets away with it. And look at this. 6 strikes in 7 frames for Mr. Stegall. And a 33-pin lead for Paul and his partner, Brett Gamber. And now Connor John. These guys better get busy. There's a strike. And I say these guys better get busy. Connor and Tobias. Tobias has been holding up his end of the deal. Connor's the one that needs to string some strikes here at the end to really help his team. And just as I say that, Tobias puts one through the nose, and he leaves the 4-6. We've seen this made on Prodigy once last year. Antonio Miranda at the Prodigy TOC last June. Look at this. Brett Gamber gets a strike with a reverse blower. And Tobias does the sensible thing, going for the count, even though at this stage of the match, trailing now by 46 pins, they need every pin they can get. Now, Paul Stegall in the 8th frame. And that is 7 strikes in 8 frames. Did I mention that he's a little streaky? 56 pins in arrears now. Connor John has no room for error. He's just about got to take it off the sheet. And he is certainly capable of doing that. I've watched him bowl. Sometimes it looked like he wasn't going to stop striking. And now Tobias needs to forget about that split in the 8th and start a little string of strikes. Well, you can't start a string of strikes without the first one, so there's one. But now Brett and Paul both with a strike up in the 8th. Oh, that's another way of tripping the 4. I don't know what got it. Probably the 3-pin. Coming off the right wall. But you don't see it go that way very often. But look at this. Now he has grown their lead to 56 pins. And Connor cuts through the nose, and that extra pin action taking out the 6 didn't really help. Now he's got a little split. Look at this guy. Paul Stegall, 8 strikes in 9 frames. Boy, he'd like to have that 5th one back. And an open in the 9th for Connor John. And that means the lead is now 80, and it's all but over. Tobias rolls the 2-pin. But he shakes his head. He knows the writing is on the wall. I think Brett Gamber can just about put an end to this right here. Well, goes high, leaves the 9. So it's still mathematically in the wood, as they say. And Tobias shows us another way of tripping the 4. And in so doing, he cuts Brett and Paul's lead to 59. Again, it would take a miracle just about for them to win. I think we'd have to see some gutter balls or fouls by Brett and Paul in these last few balls. Well, a 6 count won't help. And that puts Brett and Paul over the top. It was pretty much only a matter of time. See how easy the strikes come when the game is already decided. It's a 205 with his 29-pin handicap. That's a net score 205. The other 3 players all bowling scratch. Connor splitting a 5-6 with that one. And he's thinking, Could have used a few of those earlier in this match. There's another strike for Paul Stegall. 9 strikes and 10 frames, possible 261. Yep, they just have a way of falling differently when the match is already decided. Connor gets a bucket crumbler to go. And look at that messenger, just missed the 10 pin. So Connor John finishes with 3 strikes for what I'm sure to him is a disappointing 174. And Paul Stegall, with the spare, finishes with a 250. So it's Paul Stegall and his adult partner Brett Gamber who take match 1 over Tobias Myers and Connor John. Next up, they'll face Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell when we return. Tobias Myers and Connor John got bit by the split bug as they left 5 of them in that opening match. And boy, did they ever pick the wrong time to do it, as Paul Stegall uncorked a cool little 250 on him, even with an open. And Brett Gamber held up his end of the bargain, firing a respectable 205. So even though Tobias Myers threw 8 strikes in his 219, Connor John just got lined up a little too late to be of much help. So it's Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall who are moving on to match 2, where now they'll face the team of Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell. Ken hails from Melbourne, Kansas, which is roughly halfway between Ottawa and Emporia, Kansas, about 4 miles north of I-35, just off the train tracks that run right across the south end of town. And Thomas Futrell comes to us from Lawrence, Kansas, where we've taken you a few times for the KCO at Royal Crest Lanes, which is where Thomas does most of his bowling. As a matter of fact, Ken and Thomas both bowl at Royal Crest Lanes, despite it being about 40 miles away from Melbourne as the crow flies. It's still probably the closest bowling alley for Ken. And I'll bet you didn't know you were going to get a Kansas geography lesson on today's episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour, did ya? Well, Brett Gamber starts with a strong opening toss in match 2 for a strike. And now, Ken Caudell all the way from Melbourne, Kansas. Well, welcome to Belton, Ken. It's the 9 pin showing its ugly face again. Now Paul Stegall. Well, this time comes in that half pocket, and that 6 pin got a little lazy, just laid down in the gutter, and he leaves the 10. Look out. Well now, an errant ball there in the opening frame as he misses the 9 pin. That's an open. And not to be outdone, Paul Stegall whiffs the 10 pin. So Ken and Paul exchange opens. You see that we've added Ken's 1 pin of handicap into his score there in the first frame. We'll do the same with Brett Gamber. And Thomas Futrell comes in a little thin, breaks down the 245, leaves just the 2-4, a much easier spare without the 5 pin. Thomas, the youngest player in our 8-player step-ladder finals field today. He's just 16. covers the 2-4. So we're back to the top of the batting order as we begin the second frame. Ken Caudell Jr. moves over to the left lane. A high hit leaves just the 3. Could have been a lot worse. Brett would love to post a double right here. But he's a little thin and doesn't get the 2-pin to go. Well, I probably should have mentioned this in the first match, but by now I'm certain you've figured it out that in the adult youth doubles tournaments, they bowl league style, which means we have continuous action, which gives us precious little time between shots to show you the customary replays that we always like to give you on most episodes of Prodigy. So we'll go without that today for the most part. Thomas puts the big loft on that one. Sometimes when you do that, you catch those finger holes on the upswing and you give it a little extra juice. I think that's what happened that time. The ball overreacts on the back end. A modern game, you want to get that ball into a roll a little earlier, have it come in at a shallower angle toward the floor. Man, that 9-pin is just nailed down on lane 2, isn't it? Ooh. Well, you're very rarely going to slide the 4 into the 6 from a right-hander, and he doesn't do it. Looked close, though. There's a spare conversion of the 9-pin. But a little slower start for the players here in this second match. Brett Gamber. And he gets that lazy 6-pin to lean up against the 10, but not enough to knock it out. I am digging this Pac-Man bowling shirt that Ken Caudell is wearing. I got to get me one of those. All right, Brett for the 10-pin. And he covers it. Now Thomas Futrell. There's the ball he's looking for. High flush. Paul Stegall, who had that big string of strikes in the last match, he's looking for his first strike here in the third frame. Oh, and he gets the 10-pin to go somehow. And it looked to me like that ball was headed for the moat. Watch this. It hits the floor at about 29, throws it all the way out to about the second board. Holy moly, it's hanging over the edge. And that 6-pin just gets the 10 as it flies around. But you know what? Put an X on the score sheet. Well, now this is going to cause a problem. The 3, 9, 10 for Brett, and that's a very tricky split. Well, Ken is starting to measure this pair of lanes. He's getting closer and closer. Just a pinch too high to carry the 4. All right, Brett's got to fit the ball between the 3 and 10 and have enough juice on it to carry out the 9. But he's too full on the 3-pin, and that's an open. But they still lead by 27. spare for Ken. As Paul Stegall has a strike working. If he can get a little string going, he can stretch that lead. There you go. That double grows their lead to 37 pins. Well, this time, that extra juice he put on the ball by catching it on the upswing paid dividends, because he didn't get it out wide enough to get it into the dry part of the lane. It was kind of hydroplaning through the oil, but that extra stuff on the ball got that thing to drive through and carry out the 5. Oh, almost. But 9 and a wiggle is all you're going to get this time, Ken. There's another ripper. This Paralane's starting to heat up a little bit again. And Ken covers the 9 pin. He has an 818 on his resume and a 300 game. Paul Stegall, meanwhile, cuts through the heart, leaves the 3, 6, 9, 10. Now Thomas Futrell, who says E.J. Tackett is his favorite Pro Bowler. E.J. made an appearance on the Prodigy TOC last year. Gets the light shaker. Now that's 3 in a row, and he's got the other team's lead cut down to 14. Uh-oh, Paul chops the 3-9 off the 6-10, and now we're halfway through the match, and it's all even. So the 28 pins of handicap differential that Brett and Paul started the game with is now gone. There's another light shaker. And with that double, Brett reclaims the lead for his team. Oh, finally, a break goes Ken's way as he trips the 4 and puts a strike up on the board. Paul rips him apart with that one. Shrapnel everywhere. And now Thomas up on the left. Looks like he pulled it, but it stays in the oil, skids down lane, never quite gets into a roll, and he leaves the 4 on a light shaker. This is Thomas's first tournament all year at the KCO where he has competed in Division I. He's been Division II prior to this event. Got to take it as a good sign. His first try in Division I, he makes the stepladder finals. Earlier in March, at the March Point tournament in Olathe, he finished 6th, which was his best finish of the season prior to today. And he got re-rated, and now he's competing with the big boys. Ooh, man. Nothing lazy about that 6-pin. It flew right around the 10. And another shot through the nose. This time Ken is the one leaving the 3, 6, 9, 10. See if he can handle it a little better than Paul Stegall did in the 5th frame. Brett will go cross lane at the 10. Oh, he pulled it. And with that open frame, the lead passes to Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell. But not for long, as Ken returns the favor, and the lead is once again in the hands of Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall. Oh, that ball started hooking way early, and he leaves the 6-10. But now Thomas Futrell gets another strike, and he would love to start a little string. Oh no. That's 2 spares in a row on the left lane that Paul Stegall has chopped the front pin off the cluster. And once again, the lead passes to Ken and Thomas. Well, once again, through the nose. This time at least the 9-pin went out. It's just the 3-6-10, a little easier without the 9. There's the pocket. And Ken plants one. And that's 10 in the pit. All right. Brett for a difficult spare. And another open frame, another chop. That's back-to-back opens. Thomas smelling the opportunity, but can't cash in on the strike he had working. So instead of a double to grow the lead to 23, instead he'll need to convert this to maintain a 13-pin lead. And once again, the 2-8. We've seen this a few times now. I love Thomas's technique going for spares. He just comes right up the back of the ball, throws it dead straight. That is a great little trick to have in your bag of tricks. Paul covers the 2-8. But now we're down to the final 2 frames in match 2. And the lead is just 13 pins in favor of Ken and Thomas. This match could go either way. Brett says he wants a career in sports broadcasting. Well, maybe we need to get him in the booth here at Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Comes in a little light that time, leaves the 2-4-5. Another one through the nose, and Ken Caudell leaves the 3-6. All these players fill out a form that has a question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Ken said, skinnier. Welcome to my world. Ooh. Narrowly avoiding the chop. But you know what? You shoot the 2-4-5, you touch all 3 pins with the ball, you're going to make it. Not the way we recommend, but a spare is a spare is a spare. All right, Paul Stegall. Well, that one was thrown out in the weeds. There's a conversion of the very choppable 3-6 by Ken. Now Paul Stegall facing the 1-2-4-8. Move your feet about 3 or 4 boards to the right of your strike position. Throw your strike ball over your strike target. That ball will cross over to the Brooklyn pocket and you'll make it. About like that. Paul covers the spare. Oh, when Thomas Futrell nudges the 7-pin off the pin deck for a light shaker. He breathes a sigh of relief. I think he thought that could have resulted in just about any kind of cluster. But they all went down. They may have gone down one at a time, but they went down. Stone solid strike for Ken Caudell in the 10th frame. This would be a good time for him to run off a short little string of strikes. There's one in the 10th by Brett Gamber. And this is still anybody's match. Just 17 pins separating these two teams. A lot can happen in a doubles match real quick. Ken with another strike. That's what he had hoped for. Now Brett Gamber going for his second strike in the 10th. He says his best moment in bowling came when his high school team won the state bowling title. If he wants his team to win here, he's going to need to strike here in the 11th. It's like that 9-pin has been nailed down on lane 2 all day long. I don't know how you overcome it. He threw a great shot. And Ken gets the job done in the 10th frame, finishing with a turkey and a 187. And this strike right here is pretty much going to allow Thomas Futrell to walk it in from here. And if you're Thomas Futrell, you're probably saying to yourself, I picked the right partner. It's a spare for Brett Gamber, but it's not going to be enough, as Thomas Futrell's 9 count right there is going to put him over the top, and they are going to bowl for the championship in the next match. With that 9 count, Thomas has shut out Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall. And Paul is like, really? A 4 count. Well, you might as well have some fun with this. Why not? The match is out of reach. So show us a trick shot, Paul. Not to be. A disappointing 147 after a 250 the previous game for Paul Stegall. As Thomas Futrell wraps up the proceedings here in match 2 with a 9 count. It's a 391 to 347 victory for Ken and Thomas over Brett and Paul. And so Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell will be bowling for the championship against Mark Henninger and Caden Ball. Just a few too many mistakes in that last match for Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall swung the outcome, as Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell did just enough to win. It seemed like the match could have gone either way, but Thomas managed a short string of strikes early, and then Ken got hot at the end, and the two of them ham and egged it just enough. So congratulations to Brett Gamber and Paul Stegall on their third place finish, but it's Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell who are advancing, and now they're just one win away from claiming the championship. But first, they have to get past our tournament leaders, Mark Henninger and Caden Ball. Mark runs a pro shop and drills bowling balls for a living. And Caden is a player that I singled out on Prodigy a few episodes back as one I picked as being ready to take that next step up. And now he has that chance. Will it be his day? Well, I imagine Ken Caudell Jr. and Thomas Futrell are going to have something to say about that before it's all over. But I know these four bowlers are all primed and ready to throw down. And it appears that Mark Henninger is going to do the honors by throwing the first ball in this match. He's up on lane 2. Looked like he might have experienced a little foot slippage there at the foul line, which might have caused that ball to go high. And there is a high hit by Ken Caudell Jr., the only player who's getting any pins, and he's only getting one stick, so this is almost a scratch match. Mark will go to the left side of the lane, try to fit the ball between the 3 and 10. But he gets a little too much of the 3-pin. So that's an open frame to start. You never like that. Oh my. Ken slides the 6 in front of the 9, so there's an open frame, returning the favor. And how about that one? Caden Ball goes high, nearly leaves the 4-9, but trips them both for a strike. And Thomas Futrell got that ball out to the dry boards outside the second arrow a little too quickly on the lane. So the ball read the friction and started hooking early. Whenever that happens, you're lucky to get away with an easy makeable spare. And Thomas covers the 3-6 as intended. So the two adults will switch lanes and try to improve on their first frame performance. I tell you what, Mark Henninger, keep your eye on him. He can definitely string the strikes. He has an 889 series to his credit. That's some serious bowling. A high hit for Ken Caudell Jr., leaving the 3-6-10. Now Caden Ball. Oh, he gets a Brooklyn. Hey, take him any way you can get him. There's a spare for Ken on the right lane. And now his youth partner, Thomas Futrell, will move to lane 2. He says his best moment in bowling was when he won the HOA. That's the Heart of America Junior Classic, another group that holds monthly tournaments. I guarantee you he didn't win that HOA throwing shots like this. Is this the third time we've seen this split today? We can go months without seeing the 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, and we've seen it. I think this is the third time we've seen it left today. Nobody's come close to making it yet. Well, he had the right idea, getting the ball to the right of the 3-pin, but You're not going to make that throwing a straight ball from that angle. You'd never get the 9-pin that way. Well, that's another open. We've seen a few of those today. And we've seen a few of these today, too. The 2-8. The 2-8 and the 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10 are two spares you might not see in a month of Sundays. But we've seen several of each today. Mark says, enough of this nonsense. Give me another strike. Tell you what, every time the 2-8 has been left, it's been made today, and I tip my hat to the bowlers who have been able to cover that spare. Another one that got out a little too wide, too quickly, and Caden Ball's shot comes roaring back to the nose. And Thomas Futrell rips the rack. Caden Ball says his best moment in bowling came when he threw a clutch strike in the 10th to shut out his opponent to win the Northwest Missouri High School Regional Final to qualify for state. He didn't win that regional final missing spares like that. So everybody has had their moment in the penalty box so far in this match. Hard to imagine Mark Henninger leaving a week 10. He throws so much ball. And now Ken Caudell Jr. will be next to go in that awesome Pac-Man bowling shirt. Wow, that 4-pin went out pretty late. A 4, 6, 9, 10 would have been no joke. But the 6, 9, 10, a little more easily handled. And Mark covers the 10-pin. He is 38 years old. Just had his 38th birthday about a week before we taped this show. And now Ken Caudell will call on his Pac-Man characters on his shirt. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde to cover the 6, 9, 10. And they chew it up over in the right corner of the lane for a spare. Now Caden. And he shreds the rack. And now Thomas Futrell working on a strike. And gets them all to go down. And that will cut the lead of Mark and Caden down to just 18 pins. Mark Henninger says his favorite pro bowler is Norm Duke. What he really wanted to be when he grew up was a baseball player. And he took up bowling when he couldn't play baseball anymore. Well, Ken, you're going to get to shoot this spare again. The 6, 9, 10. This is another one we've seen 3 or 4 times today. You almost never see this spare. There's a more conventional leave, the 2-4 for Caden. Got to be careful with this one. Look out. Okay. Looked like he pulled it. I think he might have. But it went straight, didn't hook past the 6-pin, so he gets the spare. And Caden Ball sends the 2-pin around the 4. That has to be considered an unforced error. While we're on the subject of baseball, Thomas Futrell coming alive at the right time. That strike gives his team the lead by 1 stick. Although Mark can take it right back with a strike of his own right here. And that's what he does. So we've got a match that is right on the edge. Could go either way and has gone each way, back and forth here. And now Caden Ball has hit the reset button. He doesn't like the rack. So he's going to have him reset the pins. Oh my goodness. That's the first one of those we've seen today, a stone 8. Tell you what, Ken has thrown some good balls today and just not been rewarded for a surprising percentage of them. Well, even a good rack is going to leave something if you miss what you're trying to hit. And Caden just let that one sail. But 2-pin is an easy spare. I would expect him to have no problem with it. Ken covers the 8. And Caden takes out the 2-pin. Mark and Caden nursing a 10-pin lead, but that can go away with this ball right here. Look at that, Messenger. And that'll even the match. Thomas puts a 4-bagger on the board and says, have a taste of this. Now watch how close the ball comes to Mark's left ankle through the release area. It's a key to his game. He can take the lead for his team with a strike here. Oh, that 9-pin thought about frustrating him, but no. So Mark and Caden back out in front. And that wall shot could have gone. Could have also been a 5-7. Not his best shot, but gets 9 out of it. Oh my. Caden very nearly left Grandma's teeth. The 4, 7, 9, 10. But he still leaves a challenging spare as Ken covers the 7-pin. But here's the unusual 9-10 baby split. Got to put the ball right between them. How about that one? That is a momentum saver right there. And Thomas breathing a sigh of relief as the 10-pin goes out late. He nearly had the 4, 7, 10. Let's watch that 9-10 conversion again by Caden. That is beautifully done. Tell you what, Thomas Futrell has a game you could copy. He's got a beautiful straight arm swing. Love his technique, going for spares. He's getting his share of strikes, and this match is still pretty tight. 11 pins separating the two teams, although that can be 21 if Mark puts another strike up here in the 8th. Oh, man, what a break. That could have been just about anything. A 4-10. But at the very last instant, I think that was the 3-pin that came back across the lane and got the 4. And Ken's got to be saying, what do I have to do? I can't buy a strike. There's a crossover by Caden. I think even he would have to admit that he's been a little erratic this game. A couple of easy spares missed, a couple of wild balls on his first ball in the frame, but he somehow managed to survive thus far. 6-pin, easy spare. Once again, that group to our right on lanes 3 and 4, that's Division 2. We'll summarize how their stepladder finals played out when we get to the end of the show after we visit with our winners. Ken with a spare in the 8th. He's still looking for his first strike this match. He's been around the pocket. Just can't get him to go. That can be so frustrating for a player. You just keep hitting the pocket and nothing seems to work. But I'll tell you what, there isn't a bowler alive who hasn't experienced it. All right, Thomas. Again, goes with a big loft. Did you see what just happened on lane 3? This is Nick Robbins. Watch this, the 4, 6, 7, 9. You're kidding me. What a shot. The Greek church with an empty pew. All right, Thomas covers the 9-pin. But now we're down to the 9th and 10th frames with just 22 pins separating these two teams. Ken Caudell up on lane 1. And still no dice. This would be a huge strike if Mark can get it. Would extend their lead to 33. Get the license number. Tell you what, it's hard not to be impressed with this guy's game. Oh no. An open frame in the 9th. Not what they needed. And Caden tries to get the shaker, but the 7 won't go. There's a ripper. Thomas Futrell with a strike in the 9th. He's going to have to go off the sheet in the 10th and hope for the best. Hope he can get some help from his partner in the 10th. And it's no time now for one of those crazy misses. Caden converts the spare, picking up the 7. So now Mark with a 5-bagger working, and his team with a 43-pin lead, now in the 10th frame. Well, that one comes back a little strong. You see his gesture there, as if to say, got around that one a little too much. Gave it a little extra axis rotation, causing it to hook a little more on the back end. There's the strike that Ken has been longing for all game. And that brings a wry smile to his face. As Mark covers his spare, he's going to be in the 230s. It's not out of the wood yet. If Ken can strike here in the 11th, and Thomas can strike out, you never know what Caden will do in the 10th. Well, we've seen that movie before today, haven't we? Ten pin, so it's going to be 236. for Mark Henninger and a good game. Ken covers his spare, but that's a 167 with his 1 pin of handicap. And I know he's not thrilled with that result. All right, Caden just needs to stay behind the foul line and keep this ball in the building. Mission accomplished. And that, Brooklyn, is the shutout ball. So the team of Mark Henninger and Caden Ball have won the Division I title at the 2024 Kansas City Open March Adult Youth Doubles Tournament. It was kind of nip and tuck there for a while. These two teams were exchanging the lead for a while. But in the end, the young man that I've been saying for a while now was about due to make the show and show everybody what he can do, finally did. I've been razzing Caden at these KCOs every month for the last 3 or 4 months, telling him, I think you're about ready to take another step up and make the show. And look at him now. I don't know if he just didn't believe it, but he and his partner got it done today. And Thomas Futrell and Ken Caudell Jr. have nothing to be ashamed of. They bowled great to get here, but it's a 416 to 383 victory for Mark Henninger and Caden Ball. They're our champions today at the Kansas City Open, and we'll visit with them and get a signature on the coveted trophy pin when we return next. In a close match that could have gone either way, Caden Ball's adult partner, Mark Henninger, took matters in his own hands and reeled off a 5-bagger to turn the momentum in his team's favor. Meanwhile, Ken Caudell Jr. threw a lot of good shots, but just couldn't carry until the 10th frame and wasn't quite able to give Thomas Futrell the help he needed. All 4 players bowled well, but the team of Mark Henninger and Caden Ball just bowled a little bit better. And so, it's their day to visit the winner's circle.
After months of predicting big things for this young man, Caden Ball finally gets on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. And what does he do? He goes and wins the darn thing with his partner, Mark Henninger. Well, which one of you carried the team? He says you carried the team.
You did what I was supposed to do.
Tell us a little about you, Mark Henninger.
I'm a father of 2, work at Total Bowling Gear full time, so bowled since I was 18.
Is that your pro shop?
No, it's Jeff Uttry's. I'm just assistant manager.
Okay. I've definitely heard of it. You guys are pretty big around these parts.
Absolutely, world's largest retail store.
Excellent, excellent. You drill this guy's balls?
Every once in a blue moon.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
For about
Well,
2-3.
Caden, how did you do it? And I'm not talking about how you bowled today. How did you come to pick this guy?
My original teammate kind of bailed on me a couple weeks before, so I was kind of scrambling, and I knew he was a pretty good bowler, and figured I'd just hit him up, and here we are.
Here we are. Now, how did you do it? Because you obviously carried your weight.
Definitely. I mean, just kind of focus on making shots all day, make spares, stay consistent, keep the mental game in it.
You've been knocking on the door to get on Prodigy for a while, and I've been predicting this guy is about close as anybody I know to taking that next step. And you finally did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know what this means? It means you're now eligible for the Prodigy Tournament of Champions at the end of the season, where the winner will win the coveted trophy pin that you're about to sign. And we know you're clad in all red. Can I guess what color pen you've chosen to sign with?
White.
White.
No.
Maybe not. It's a red one. And Mark, I'm sorry, but you won't be eligible for the Tournament of Champions. But you can be there to root him on. Congratulations, young man. You deserved it.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier in the show, the players to our right on lanes 3 and 4 were the Division II group. And here's how their stepladder finals played out. In the opening match, the number 3 qualifiers, Nick Robbins and his dad Joel, defeated the 4 seeds, Brennan Inlos and his adult partner Scott Hawkins, 421 to 338. Then in match 2, the Robbins team rode their momentum to another win, this time defeating the 2 seeds, Jacob Smith and his adult partner Robert Fellows, 452 to 419. And in the championship match, Nick converted that split we showed you earlier en route to a 391 to 363 victory over the tournament leaders Connor Souders and his dad Andrew Souders. So congratulations to Nick Robbins and his dad Joel on their championship run in Division II. On our last episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour, you saw Nicholas Sharp and his dad Ryan win all 3 matches to run the stepladder and win the Division III title. And we told you about how Luke Gramling and his aunt Nicole Orlando won the Division IV crown, and how Shane Schonifer and Randy Schonifer won the title in Division V after they won the adult youth doubles event in December as well, sweeping the 2 doubles events this season at the KCO. So congratulations to all 5 doubles teams on their winning performances today at the Kansas City Open March Adult Youth Doubles Tournament. If you'd like to bowl in one of the upcoming KCO tournaments, or just want to learn more about the KCO, visit their website at www.kansascityopen.com. There are now only 2 KCO point tournaments left on the season calendar. April at Crown Lanes in Leavenworth, Kansas, and May at Revolutions Lanes and Fun Center in St. Joseph, Missouri. And then the final KCO event of the season, the June KCO Invitational, open to those KCO bowlers who meet the minimum participation eligibility requirement. And last but not least, on June 23rd, 1 week after Father's Day, it's the season-ending Prodigy Bowlers Tour Tournament of Champions, where every single player who won a championship in any division at the KCO this season is eligible. More about that in the coming weeks. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. And if you like the channel, smash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to get alerts sent to you whenever we post new content. Share the video on your social media feeds. And leave a comment down below. That helps us grow the channel. To support the creative work that goes into producing Prodigy Bowlers Tour, become a Prodigy patron. For just $5 a month, you'll get early access to all our full-length episodes of the show. And for $10 a month, you'll not only get early access, but you'll also get your name in the show's closing credits as an executive producer. You know, like the Hollywood bigwigs do. Go to www.patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour and follow the prompts to become a patron. To keep up with all things Prodigy year-round and get all the behind-the-scenes stuff, join our Facebook group. It's free. From any page on Facebook, type into the search bar Prodigy Bowlers Tour and hit enter. That'll take you to a page where you'll be asked some screening questions. You must answer those if you want your request to join the group to be approved. So that's a wrap from Aaron's Family Fun Center in Belton, Missouri, where Caden Ball and Mark Henninger are the champions in Division I. This is Coach Randy reminding you to stay behind the foul line and to keep kicking out the corner pins, not the foul lights or ball returns. I'll talk to you on our next episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Until then, go get your bowl on.